Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello! I have arrived. I was here the whole time, but you didn't know it until Ian said my name. That's how this works, right?
Pretty much.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure, because it would be a little weird.
There's like zero object permanence on this show. The only reason why they know we even exist is because we continue to speak. The moments of silence are moments of terror. Where have they gone? What has happened to it? Oh no, someone put a blanket over our cage. We're now collectively asleep.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Although, not gonna lie, if you were to drape a cloth over my head right now, I probably would go to sleep, so.
Sounds like a good idea. I like that plan a lot. On this show, you don't exist unless you have a little head floating in and out of frame on the video version. If you don't, you're not here. How are you doing, sir?
As implied, tired. It's been a very busy January, even busier February so far, and this week that we're rolling into, it's only going to be busier, so I am going to be tired. How about you?
Yeah, same, honestly. I'm on the vampire schedule again, as you mentioned earlier, off the air. But, yeah, it's just like, why did I do this to myself? Why have I done this? What is wrong with me? Turns out everything is wrong with me.
Oh, no.
It's all wrong. Everything is wrong, Ian. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Get in line, buddy.
Help me. Help me. Anyway. Other than that, I guess I've been playing Human Fall Flat. That's my video game thing I've been playing. It's an indie game, came out a few years ago. You play as a little wobbly person, wobbling around, raising your arms, swinging your arms from side to side, jumping around, solving puzzles. And your goal is to get to the end of the level and then jump and fall to the next level. That's why they call you Human Fall Flat. You don't really fall flat, though. You fall very wobbly, but whatever, it's fine. It's like a 3D puzzle solving game, platformer. It's fun. It's got a weird atmosphere to it. It's kind of it takes itself. It seems the music and everything takes itself a bit too seriously compared to what's actually going on in the game, which I think is kind of one of the joys of it. I don't know. It's just a weirdly atmospheric but still kind of relaxing game. It's fun. So I do recommend it. Check it out. Anyway, are we ready to get into the actual show here? The reason why people are here?
Yep, let's get to the Q&A. If you want your question answered on the show, email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, tweet to us at BumbleKast, comment anywhere in any of our YouTube videos. If you're a patron, post anywhere on the Patreon page, or preferably in the Ask Q&A channel over on the Discord. If you want your question answered sooner rather than later, get priority placement in the Q&A by becoming a $5 patron over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, or send us $6 US, that's 2 coffees, at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. We've had a little bit of issue with some of the Ko-fi submissions where folks don't send us the full $6 or they don't send us the questions. So please, if you're going to go through Ko-fi, which is perfectly fine, we encourage it. It's a nice alternative to Patreon. But you have to make sure that you give us, everything we need to answer your priority question. Pretty please. Now, before you ask your question, please be sure to check out the master Q&A list. Also, check the FAQs over at bumbleking.com. And if you're going to ask anything that would be within Lost Hedgehog Tales, the write-up of what might have been in my old Archie Sonic run, don't. Because we're not going to do that. We've covered that for a couple years now. So make sure that you've checked those things. Think about what you're asking and why you're asking. And then, by all means, proceed to the asking.
Yes. And as for those who have asked, let's ask their questions to you. I will relay their questions to you, Ian, and you shall answer them or not answer them even. Who knows? We'll find out. Let's find out together, shall we? Priority Q&A time. We're going to wrap up Diane W's questions from last week, where she was asking about some of the questions she had regarding some Shadow the Hedgehog, the game. Continuing on, she asks, why would the gun commander work for Gun and blame Shadow for Maria's death and having his family taken from him when it was Gun who took away the commander's family and killed Maria when the Ark shut down?
It was covered up. Gun did the cover-up, and he was like, 8? When it happened? As far as he knew, he saw the big scary alien create the weird hedgehog mutant thingy in a tube, and then his best friend in the whole wide world died, and then his entire life aboard the Ark was upended, and Gunn said, there was an oopsie, but we fixed it. He has no context beyond that. The fact that he bought Shadow's story so quickly is a little iffy.
They just put a big blanket all over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did.
Snugly.
And then went to sleep. Why does Black Doom want Shadow to get the Chaos Emeralds or even activate the Jewel Temples when he has a huge army of Black Arms that can just do the job?
That's kind of up in the air, but it seemed to be that Black Doom had a limited ability to send troops planet-side, whereas once he had the Chaos Emeralds and could Chaos control the entire Black Comet to the surface, then they could unleash that weird neurotoxin on a global level and start chowing down on people.
Yummy. Why would Eggman be upset that there will be no city to take over if the Black Arms destroy them all when he had no problems flooding Station Square by unleashing chaos?
Because he didn't get to do it.
Exactly. That's the kicker.
It's not that they are doing destruction, it's that they're beating him to the punch. It's they're taking away his jollies.
Yes, that's how it always goes for Eggman. He'll destroy the entire planet if it means he's the one who gets to destroy the entire planet. If anyone else tries to do it, he's like, oh, heck no. And then he's mad.
He called dibs a long time ago. No take backsies.
Yep. It's all his. You don't get to be taken over it. It's mine. It's mine to destroy, not yours. And finally, the last one, the biggest one of all, who the Gibbling Flump hired the Chaotix to find any info on Project Shadow?
Same folks who hired Rouge. I mean, she kind of found out most everything her first time through, but
doesn't matter.
I don't know. We don't really get a lot of insight into what government agencies there are around the world outside of Gun.
Yeah, does it matter? It doesn't really matter. It can be unnamed entity. Anyway, that's it for Diane's questions. Let's move on to a question here from PC the Unicorn. Ian, because I never stop thinking about how great Worlds Collide is, I have this fun question involving two beloved evil scientists. What would Dr. Starline make of Dr. Wily and vice versa? Would Starline, like Eggman, consider Wily weak for the mere fact that he won't kill Dr. Light, despite the fact that it would make Wily's life easier?
I see this going one of two ways. Either A, Starline finds Wily to be just as impressive, or he hates his guts. He finds him to be a complete goofball. And when you tried to compare him side by side with Eggman, he's like, no. You're missing the nuance. Dr. Eggman is brilliant because of X, Y, and Z. Wily, not so much now. However, either take, had he been available for Worlds Collide, he would totally be the jilted lover in the entire scenario. Eggman and Wily are off doing their thing, and Starline's just kind of sitting in the background going, I would be a good mission guy. I was Dr. Eggman's protege first. Why don't I get to come on the mission? I don't get consulted? Why am I not consulted on the giant evil combo mech? I'm arguably smarter. He could do so much better than that old balding, wrinkled thing. As for the Dr. Light scenario, I think Starline would be more sympathetic to Wily's position, but I think he would come to the same conclusion Eggman would, that you have to remove Light from the equation. he is a liability. And while he would at least pause for a moment to, say, I understand this is hard to do, but then he would pull the lever without any remorse.
Yeah, pretty much. I do like Starline as the third wheel, though. That's very funny. It's very funny.
Shoot, in this hypothetical scenario, he'd probably be the one to bring up Dr. Light. No, but dear doctor, please. This Light fellow, he's a liability. He is a chink in the armor. He is a back door to that doddering old man. You have to get rid of him.
Yes. Starline is so much fun in that gloriously evil kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
He is. Next up, we got a question from Andrew D. I noticed in the comic that the Chaotix are never referred to as Team Chaotix and instead are referred to as the Chaotix Detective Agency. Is the name Team Chaotix no longer allowed to be used? And is Chaotix Detective Agency the name of the group, the place they stay at, or both?
My understanding is that Team Chaotix is more of a brand name, theme song notwithstanding. Kind of in the same way that Team Dark isn't really a team. But that the Chaotix Detective Agency is like the official name for the group. That is their job. That is their distinction as a unit. Team Chaotix is simpler to say and is a little more fun, but Detective Agency is what they are.
Yeah, and I don't really see Shadow, Rouge, and Omega calling themselves Team Dark. That's a little too on the nose. It seems like it's just shorthand for us to understand who they are, but
sure.
Less so in universe.
Yeah, if we could go back to where the way I had it in the old books, where it was the distinction Gunn gave them.
Right. Yeah.
It still works under the way that you were saying it because they aren't like, yeah, let's go Team Dark. It's like, yeah, sure, that's us.
Yeah. I guess they would begrudgingly accept it. Sure, why not? But, they're not friends, so it's fine. Next question is from John B. Hey guys, this question is for both of you. With the announcement that Roger Craig Smith is leaving the role of Sonic, what did you like about his performance as Sonic throughout the years? This could range from how he approached the role as a whole or a specific moment. Personally, while the deeper voice threw me off at first, I found that Roger had amazing comedic timing. This especially showed in Sonic Boom.
Yeah, we've all been kind of rocked by that news. What with, Colleen O'Shaughnessy saying that she's off as Tails and Cindy Robinson saying she's off as Amy. If there's anybody else who's been confirmed, I haven't heard it. Mike Pollock has said he's staying on as Eggman, which is more relieving than it ought to be.
Yeah, at least there's one constant.
But I don't know, given what happened in the transition from Sonic X to the last cast, I'm willing to bet that we're going to be seeing something like that again. I don't know. The big disclaimer there. I don't know. I have no inside track on this. When Roger made his announcement, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I am really bummed that he and the others are no longer part of the crew because they were the best to me. They were my favorite versions of those characters. Cindy, I think, took a little longer to find her place as Amy, but I think that's just because of the direction she was given.
Yeah.
She's perfectly competent, and once she kind of settled into Boom Amy and beyond, she absolutely nailed it. The question was specifically about Roger, and to me, he captured the absolute quintessential dry wit that is perfect Sonic. Just cocky enough to have the attitude, but still playful enough that he's not a jerk or an unlikable jerk.
Yeah, he was very likable, definitely, as his Sonic was.
Just smooth and charismatic and charming and absolute delight in everything. The whole crew was. So I am really bummed that we've had this turn of events.
Yeah, I really find it frustrating that Sega just, I don't know if they're I don't know what it is, contract issues or just Sega deciding to move on, even though it would be much better if they kept things consistent. And I don't know. It's tough to say, and I'm very disappointed because Roger he's really been like the voice of Sonic. If there's one person I could point to and say, yeah, I mean, that's what Sonic sounds like. That's him. That's Sonic right there, and that would be Roger compared to all the other voices who have also done great jobs. Don't get me wrong, but Roger's been like the most feeling of this is quintessentially Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, this is him. This is it right here. And then to have that just thrown out, it's like just really disappointing. Was there anything you were going to add to that, or
no?
I thought you were.
I thought there was something you were gonna... I have some thoughts and some speculations, but given my position, I worry it might be misconstrued as insider info or hints at something when really I don't know. So I'm just going to play it safe and say, yeah, it sucks. Roger, we salute you.
Yes. Yes, we do. So, and everybody else who's leaving as well. Tails, it took a long time for them to figure out what kind of voice they wanted for Tails, and then when they got Colleen in there, she absolutely just nailed it. They went through several kids. They tried to give him a child, and they tried to make an actual child voice him, which is a good effort, but not a good way for consistency. So once they found Colleen, though, she was just perfect as Tails. So really sad to see her go too. And the next question comes from Johnny B. Good, not to be confused with John B. I think, unless they are the same person. No, they're not. Okay. I heard you want questions, so I got a Mega Man question to ask. In what ways were Mega Man and the Robot Masters less intelligent or capable of agency than Reploids or even humans? They had distinct personalities, and some could express emotions like despair and remorse. Since Mega Man has had a lot of interpretations, what I'm really asking is what limits you had in mind for their robot brains when writing them.
First, let's just be straight with it. There isn't really much of a difference.
No.
And the games did not make a clear distinction because I don't think there was ever a really tight narrative thread throughout. There's certainly something to follow, don't get me wrong, but it was not, there was no clear overarching direction like so many mega franchises we see today. I feel like a lot of what we see today stems from growing up on these so many cool ideas. Why aren't they more cohesive?
Mm-hmm.
But for my approach, at least within the comic, I was trying to think of it as that the Robot Masters are facsimiles of consciousness, that they can emulate personality, that they can make independent decisions to a degree, but there is a limit to how much they can deviate. There are exceptions throughout classic Mega Man. I understand that. But I was thinking stuff along the lines of, some of the Robot Masters are built for this one function. And if you try to take them out of that function, they aren't going to be able to perform very well. Rock and Roll are built to help. They were built initially to clean, but, with a broader idea of help in mind. And that gives them greater latitude. Blues was kind of the one-off. He might have been kind of like the prototype to the Reploids in a way, in that Dr. Light accidentally struck cold the first time, and that's why he's so independent. That may not completely hold water, I understand, but that's how I was kind of approaching it. With the Reploids themselves, they are fully sapient and fully aware and fully able to make decisions by themselves and to live fully independent lives as individuals. There is a caveat to that in which X himself is that full limitless potential. Arguably Zero as well, because I like to think that Wily managed to create something comparable. But the Reploids were Dr. Kane's flash in the pan knockoffs, really, when you get down to it.
Imperfect copies.
Yeah, so while they certainly have most of the range X does, they don't have, I guess, the maturity, if that's the right word for it. They don't have the same stability when faced with that limitless possibility, I guess, which is one way maybe to interpret the Maverick virus. There's no really hard and fast answer, because then you start getting into, quite really deep philosophical stuff like, well, what is free will? What is it in regular humans versus anything else? And that right there is already such a fuzzy topic that we could go on all day with this. So short version, robot masters are a emulation of free will that is robust enough that it would fool most people who are just working with them on a momentary basis, whereas Reploids are the first true step into independent synthetic life.
And really, the only distinction that the games have ever made and any of the other media outside of comics or anything has been the robot masters are bound by the 3 laws of robotics, while Reploids are not. That's the only distinction that I'm aware of that's ever made. So it's just kind of like, okay, great. How does that work in practice? Well, you get Mavericks. That's what happens. But
because I'm pretty sure there's at least one robot master in Classic that changes occupations because they want to.
Yeah,
which is just like, we had something here and then you mucked it up.
Yeah, things get weird. I believe that's Sheepman. Next up, question from Off. Fiona Fox. I've seen a lot of folks refer to her as the Harley Quinn to Scourge's Joker. What would Sonic say? This has me wondering. What future plans did you have for her, if anything? The comparison Harley is ironic to me, considering I always expected to see some kind of redemption arc for her. She had a rough history, and she made some pretty questionable life choices, but I always held out hope that she gets tired of being a bad guy at some point. Can you offer any insight on this? Well, I mean, that's kind of the exact character arc that Harley Quinn has taken, but anyway, go off, Ian.
Not to get too fine a point on it, because this would be kind of Lost Hedgehog-y territory, but roughly speaking, I was thinking Fiona would eventually realize what a toxic individual Scourge was and what an anchor he was around her neck, break off on her own, and become her own villainess. Stop clinging to other people, stop trying to attach herself to some form of stability, to be her own Rock, her own evil, manipulative, self-serving Rock, but her own Rock. I don't know if I had her kind of taking over the Destructics and turning them into her own gang or what, but that would have been super long-term what-if scenario, so who knows?
Maybe. Scurvy Pirate Hog is up next with another question. Convenient. To both. Robotnik's Eggmobile from the Sonic movie, your favorite version of the Batmobile, and the time-traveling DeLorean from Back to the Future. If you could own one of these 3 vehicles, which one would you choose and why?
Well, I know you, Kyle.
What? You don't know me at all.
You're telling me with a straight face you don't immediately go for the DeLorean.
Listen. You don't know me. You don't know me, but yeah, it's the DeLorean. Yeah, it's the DeLorean. It's the DeLorean. What about you? The DeLorean actually, compared to the other two, the DeLorean's capabilities are kind of lacking for the most part. All it can do is fly and time travel. That's all it can do, really.
You're thinking...
And it can barely get up to 88 miles an hour, so...
you're thinking 3-dimensionally, man.
True.
You take the DeLorean, you do a time paradox, you take all 3.
Aha! Yeah.
You use time travel shenanigans to duplicate yourself and get all 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm in. I got it. I do still want the DeLorean though. Let's see. What is my favorite version of the Batmobile? What is your favorite version of the Batmobile, Ian?
So that's the harder question, because I'm sitting there going, well, there's this one.
Honestly,
this
this is like a question within a question. It's like, which Batmobile is my favorite? I don't know. It's hard to say. They're all fun.
They are, but they're not practical at all. The DeLorean, that's a car. And it can fly, and it can time travel. So you got the functionality plus the perks. The Eggmobile, it can fly. It's reasonably sized, so you could park it when you get your groceries. And it's got a number of weapons to get the idiots off the road in front of you. So, it's got the practicality and the buffs. The Batmobile, you can't do a 3-point turn in that. I don't think you can do a right-hand turn in that.
That's why it has a grappling hook. So you can grapple onto, so you can turn by grappling onto a lamppost.
Yeah, but I don't want to have to go 90 miles an hour and hook into the bank just to get into the grocery store. If I'm cruising around at 5 miles per hour, I'm going to be taking up 3 lanes with my blinker on. And that's starting in the turn lane in the middle of all 5.
No one said the Batmobile was practical. That's not the point of it. That's not the point of anything Batman does, really. Batman is not practical in the slightest. He's rich. That's how you know he's impractical.
I don't know. I guess it's kind of a tip-off between... No, toss-up. Wow, there we go. I guess it's a toss-up between the first Tim Burton one.
Yeah, that's
just stylish, man.
And that's iconic. When I think of Batmobile, the first one I think of is 89.
And the one from Batman Beyond, because that was sleek and sexy, and it could fly, so it doesn't matter if you need to corner or not. You can just, you don't have to parallel park. You just come straight down. Abuse that Z-axis.
I'm a little disappointed in the Batmobile in Batwoman, the current show. Okay. They just introduced the Batmobile this season, and it's fine. It's literally it's just a black Camaro, lightly modified. It's like, oh, that's it? That's all we're going for here? Just a Camaro? All right, fine. Seems like Batman would have better taste than just a Camaro, but whatever. Whatever. When you're rich, I guess you can afford a cheap American sports car. Oh well. Next up, Ian Waffles has a question. During the Mecha Sally arc, Sonic is at his lowest point, and it many times acts in violent or overly aggressive ways. At times I think to myself, this is kind of like something Scourge would do. This seemed to be confirmed at the turning point of that arc, when Sonic thinks to himself about Scourge's words of how one bad day could make them alike. Pre-reboot, Archie Sonic always had these moments of Sonic going too far, either in his ego or his aggression. Was it always the intention to have Sonic's character flaws be a reflection of Scourge that built up to this near breaking point he faces in the Mecha Sally arc?
Yes and no. Scourge, in his inception, was meant to take a virtually blank, useless character and do something with him. And since Evil Sonic himself was wholly derivative of Sonic, I wanted to, play with that. On one level, it's just, the fun trope of what if you had the hero, but he was evil, which is easy enough. But then you've got the aspect of what do you do when you know that your identity, your entire existence is derivative of someone else, that you exist purely as an analog to someone else. What does that do to you, And that's where I think most of the interesting stuff came out of Scourge. He's a slime ball, he's a sleaze, he's every negative word in the book, but there's a slight degree of tragedy to him because he has nothing else, or if he could be something else, he can't break away from this dual identity that he has. So once that was established, and once we had explored that a fair bit, Then it becomes a reflection back on Sonic. And it's like, okay, well, if Scourge is all the potential of Sonic going in that direction, why doesn't he go there? What is it that keeps him from following that same path? And then that becomes this character study of how he was in the past and the decisions he makes going forward. And when you put him in such a dire scenario like the Mecha Sally arc, how does he handle it? And how does he differentiate himself when we have a clear example of what could happen if he goes too far down the wrong path?
Alrighty. Let's move on to the next question from Noni. Ian, I can't think of any Drogoon questions, but I want to hear more about it. Can you just, go off for, a solid 5 minutes? This is your dream question.
I like this one, Noni. Thank you. Right, so Drogoon, which had its update last week, 5 pages, plus additional bonus content, is a science fantasy series I've been doing with Sonic veteran Adam Bryce Thomas. He makes me look good. And it's a kind of a cathartic exercise because I work on so much licensed stuff that has to follow certain guidelines and rules and has to fit certain publishing schemas and, has to do this, that, and the other. Drogoon is just me, which is a lie because Adam contributes a large part to it. It's me run through Adam's filter. Let's put it that way. And some Adam will have questions of, what do you mean by this? What were you thinking for that? How does this work? I drew this thing because I was thinking of it. What do you think? And I'm like, yes, that has now created 700 years of backstory lore. Thank you for that. And just, riffing off of stuff that he comes up with. We covered this when he was on for the Drogoon episode a couple years back, where he just did a doodle off to the side of what would this be if it was cool. I'm like, okay, so that's now an integral part of the species and lore and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, don't worry, this will show up 7 years down the road. But for now, it's cool. It's a great inspiration. It's and there's a question that we're going to be getting to that kind of ties into this, but it's a culmination of a lot of things that I have enjoyed media-wise and a lot of things I've been frustrated by. And since there's no way I'm going to be able to go and change them myself, this is my way of doing it right, so to speak, in air quotes. Kind of case in point, Star Wars. When, you had this really cool idea that is the Force, this mystical energy that permeates all things and that you can tap into when you have reached a certain level of detachment and calmness of spirit, is then revised into an energy that is beamed into us by microbial bugs. All the mysticism, all the deeper spirituality out the window because we had to put a harder sci-fi spin on it. It's still kind of science fantasy, but there's just that one little asterisk in there, and that bugs the crap out of me. So that doesn't exist in Drogoon. Not that the Force really exists in Drogoon either, but the way that I'm approaching it as science fantasy is I'm leaning hard into the fantasy side of things. The distinction being, sci-fi, science fiction, your harder sci-fi tries to stay within the rules of the universe. Some more than others, but it's kind of an exploration of what could be knowing what we know. Science fantasy is when you play a little faster or looser with those rules or ignore them entirely and have, your psychic space alien cats that the humans meet as they go to colonize Tamazeta Dow or whatever. So with Drogoon, it's got the kind of Star Warsy feel of, flying ships and different locations with these strange and unusual sentient beings. But it also leans very hard into the fantasy side where it's all based on magic. And there are rules that the universe is going to work under. You can't just say, oh, it's magic and wave your hand, because that takes the stakes out of everything. But at the same time, if you're going to ask, okay, how does this boat actually fly through the air with, the gravitational constant of this and blah, blah, blah. And that's where you say it's magic. Okay,
pretty much.
It's just magic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why are these continents floating in a poison cloud able to produce air and water? Mana. It's a mana feed. The magical energy produces the life. Okay, how does that work? Magic. Because you don't need more than that. Okay? If you want something harder, more science-fi-y, it's out there. Go find it. But Dragoon is just, it's mine. It's something I can actually mold and shape and do with as I please. And it's kind of daunting, because now that I've created this universe and I keep finding new avenues to expand and just have fun with it, it's like, oh, I could tell this story with these characters over here, or I could do this over here, or I could do that over there. And it's like, but there's also the main story. The whole principle, the whole reason why we got this started. It's like, yeah, but I've already plotted that out. I know what I'm doing with that. Let's play with all these other toys. So, me getting ahead of myself on this. Has it been 5 minutes or longer?
I think it's been longer, but that's okay. I'm just enjoying listening to it. It's fine.
It's like I said, it's mine. It's my chance to be creative without restriction. Put it out at my own pace, and it's fun, and it's mine. It's different. It's something new that I don't have to approve by anybody else, just me.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone else enjoys it, because otherwise it's purely self-congratulations at this point.
I think that's what I like about it, is it's just it. It's nothing else. It's just you and Adam, and that's it. There's nothing else. No need to worry about anything else. It's all just there. And the things that you don't explain, you don't need to explain them. It don't matter. It's magic. Whatever. I think that's what just makes it a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying it. So, yeah, it's nice to have that sort of level of freedom. I know how much that means to you. So, yeah, it's great. Fantastic. Check it out. Dragoon.com. Puppetry Populis. Hearing you talk about Wakfu made some dots jostle in my head and connect. Ian, any influence of Wakfu and Dragoon, its world, etc.?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to specify what exactly, because immediately someone will go, okay, this is where he ripped it off. But there are elements of Wakfu that, I really like, and there you'll see parallels within Dragoon. But, there's also a bit of Star Wars, there's a bit of Tales of series, a little bit of Fire Emblem in there, a little bit of Lord of the Rings, and a healthy helping of Skies of Arcadia, to be sure.
Yep. I was going to say, I know the big one. I know the big one.
Probably a little bit of Halo in there, if I'm being honest with myself.
I mean, it seems like there's just a little bit of everything that has inspired you. Maybe not even everything so far, but I'm sure at some point it will crop up.
It is a culmination of there's probably, to a degree, the kind of, so OG Thundercats. Mm-hmm. Just the sheer what of that series? They're cat people on a third Earth with magic swords fighting various random animal people, and they have a tank, but there's also magic, and there's a pyramid with a mean mummy man. What is this show? And Dragoon kind of captures, or aims to capture, that kind of just free fantasy to it.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone has kind of pointy elf ears. This one girl looks like she's kind of human, but she's also a dragon, and their boat flies through the air, and space is not empty, but actually a poison gas, and there's magic, and the tanks run on magic. What is this thing? So, her friends are a giant talking squirrel and talking rock. That's Dragoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are no rules, just fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, there are rules. There are lots of rules. I stress out over following my own rules. But we're not going to turn this into another Drogon episode. We're going to move on with the Q&A.
Okie dokie. Here we go. We got the return of our good buddy Scruffy Matt on deck here. As fans who have reviewed many of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films on the BumbleKast before, I was wondering if you boys are as giddy as I am to finally have some new MCU content after a very long wait. Debatably less if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still counts. It does. Have you been watching WandaVision? What do you think of it? Are you excited for the other upcoming MCU shows like Loki or Bucky and Captain Falcon? Now you say Captain Falcon, I'm thinking, oh, it's Captain Falcon from F-Zero. Yes. And Bucky O'Hare and Captain Falcon. That's what I want. I
would watch that.
That's the show I want. Bucky O'Hare and Captain Falcon. Anyway, yeah, go. I'll let you answer this one, Ian, first.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with it. I was kind of feeling the MCU burnout by the end of Endgame. I was like, okay, it's been fun, but do we really need to keep going on and on and on and on? You know, they announced the 17 other films coming, and it's like, I already feel tired about it. But WandaVision has been phenomenal. Have you watched it at all?
Yes. And
okay.
it also helped that we kind of got an unintentional year off, I think. For the most part. I mean, there were a couple of small things last year, but for the most part, it's been kind of just a dormant year for it, which is good. It's been nice to just let it settle.
I think what I've liked the best about WandaVision is, never mind the creepiness of it, but that they're using it as a vehicle to explore other MCU stuff. The fact that we have and Jimmy Woo back is like, oh my god. Just when they showed up, I'm like, ooh, they're still relevant. They're still here. We're playing with the universe that's established. We're not just adding and adding and adding and adding and adding and adding. You know, the sequence in which Monica returns, and I'm being a little vague just in case you haven't caught up with it yet. You know, to see that aspect of the restoration, what are they calling it? The D-snap.
Yeah.
And the terror that would create was fascinating. And then, of course, the big reveal of the latest episode and all the implications that brings. Holy crap.
Yeah. And
you've got a stellar cast, and it just feels like a really solid addition. Like, I could see how they could possibly do this as another MCU movie, you know, if they only have the 2 hours to spend. But I like that they have it in this TV format to explore it in this fashion. And so given the bar that this is set, I'm super stoked to see what they do with Loki, what they're doing with Bucky and Captain Falcon, what they're going to be doing with the animated what if stuff. Just, I'm on board again. I'm just, gimme. Let me consume.
Yeah, the idea of the multiverse is tantalizing, but but it's tough because trying to balance out a multiverse can be difficult, as we've seen many times over the years in comics. It's like, yeah, we can have a multiverse, but at what point does it get just too bloated and everything? But I really like the way they're kind of using WandaVision as a way to start phase 4 and to really, like, say, okay, we're going to say that these certain things that you assumed didn't exist in this Marvel universe just because they were less realistic or less movie friendly. Guess what? They do. So we're going to play with it. So
I mean, they eased us into it, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like, I remember when the idea of just bringing Thor to the big screen, it's like, how are you even going to make that palatable,
right,
to audiences? And then it's like, okay, now we're getting into Guardians of the Galaxy. How are you going to make a talking tree and raccoon work? Really.
Turns
You already won some good faith, but are you going too far? It's like, no, now Rocket is like one of the most deeply sympathetic and well-rounded characters, and people see him as an individual and not a CG Build-A-Bear. And so when they're talking about, here, we're going to be bringing in the Eternals, we're going to be bringing in multiverse stuff, it's like, yeah, all right, let's see how you do it.
Yeah, it's just like, how are they going to pull this off? The only thing that I'm just disappointed with is the way they've unceremoniously ejected the rest of the TV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they've just kind of written that off as an alt universe thing. I don't know. Maybe they'll come back in some form, but I guess we'll find out. And if this whole multiverse thing ends up being a way to do that, could be interesting. Looking forward to it. But, I mean, hopefully they can at least keep it relatively well done without getting overly bloated and hard to follow or anything. We'll see how it goes.
If they're wise, I think they'll try to follow a similar arc as phases 1 through 3. Start small, and then build your way back up. Because, I mean, go back to the first one. Look at Iron Man, where the idea of a dude on a flying armor was just on the cusp of being out there. And we had to spend a lot of time rationalizing it, showing the different testing phases. And then compare it to the final fight of Endgame.
Right, yeah.
Where we have magic wizards opening up portals to hidden super cities in Africa and other planets, so that the kid with a spider techno suit can show up with the aliens to fight the other super aliens with their mutant gorillas and whatnot. And instead of going, what the hell am I watching? It's going, yeah, Avengers Assemble, go get them.
Yeah, yep. So, just start small, and it seems like that's what they're doing. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how things progress from here. Next up, we got a question from Ink Pants. If Sally Acorn shows up, can she be voiced by John Gray?
See, normally I would throw out some kind of hilarious, violent denial, but I know John's been having a rough year, so I'm going to say if it makes him happy, go for it.
John, you can do anything you want, as long as it's not something terrible. Don't do something terrible. Anyway. And finally, our last priority question. It's not really a question, it's more like a statement. It comes from Degama F. Wow. There's a lot of talk about mandates in the questions you get, but no one asks about the woman dates.
I know, right? Where's the equality?
It's annoying. It's annoying. Come on. Ask about the woman dates, everybody. Ask some woman dates. Or non-specific gender dates. That's fine too. Unspecified gender dates. Person dates, yes. I agree. Ask them all. Anyway. Speaking of dates, maybe you can go get a date at the Bumble Comic Shop. Can you do that, Ian? Is that what you can do at the Bumble Comic Shop?
You can do all sorts of things online these days. Who am I to judge?
It's like Zombocom. You can do anything at Zombocom.
At the very least, you could buy yourself some discounted comic books signed by me. We got Sonic titles, Star Wars titles, My Little Pony, Minecraft. If I've touched it, it's probably in there in some shape or form. So head on over to bumbleking.com and look under the Shops tab to find the Bumble Comic Shop.
Get you some comic books and some woman dates. Or some man dates. Or some person dates. I don't know. bumbleking.com is not a dating site.
No, it is not. It's not even up to date.
Oh! Anyway, let's jump into standard Q&A. Here comes one from Turbo. I'm sorry for asking this if you've already covered this question, but could you tell me if Sonic and the Freedom Fighters that got their memories restored by Nicole keep their memories of the old continuity world throughout the post-Genesis Waves reboot comic run, or does it fade away and they completely forget it ever happened? Or do they remember that they got memories, but the memories of the world faded away and they only remember that there was another world?
My intention was that it faded completely. This was something that Paul and I locked horns over a whole lot, but I felt like it shouldn't be acknowledged at all if it was supposed to be a clean break. He wanted some form of continuity so that old readers didn't feel like they were being completely thrown out. So that was our middle ground, that they had the memories restored so that they remembered that there was a swap over, but that they lost those memories entirely so that they were free to go in the new direction without any prior baggage.
Right. And I like that word baggage, because it would have just complicated things and added more baggage if you had kind of kept that around. I don't even know exactly how it would have worked, but I mean, you could have figured something out, but yeah. Next up, we got a question from Mark Tone. Thoughts on the 2 Sonic Adventure games?
Fondly remembered, warts and all. Kind of fun looking at how experimental the first one was.
Yeah.
And how refined it was into the second. I think I prefer the second one of the 2 by virtue of just playing as Eggman and blowing stuff up. You don't get to do that. That was fun. Debatable on whether or not it did a good job setting the tone for what would be modern Sonic in the years to come. It certainly made it a clear distinction from classic.
Sure.
And I will be an apologist for a lot of the bugs in the original adventure, but that's rose-tinted glasses to be sure. And I guess the biggest gripe I would have with the original is that you didn't get more of the side content, because everybody else, if you take everybody else's stages and combine them, you have about the same number of stages as Sonic. And I mean, it's a Sonic game. That makes sense. I just wish everybody's campaign was a little longer. But
yeah.
I really like that Amy had her own game style. That Knuckles had his own game style. That Gamma had his own game style. I unironically loved the exploration with Big. Tails kind of felt like the weakest Link, but it was still different enough to be distinctly his own game. And I wish we could see kind of a return to that. But at the same time, if we were just to have something more focused like SA2, where you've got your racing, your hunting, and your shooting down to a exact science, I'd take that too.
That's funny, because, I mean, I feel the opposite. I feel like Sonic Adventure 1 was a much better game compared to Sonic Adventure 2. I like Sonic Adventure 1 better, personally. I feel like Sonic Adventure 2 is kind of overrated. But, yeah, it's not a bad game by any means. It's just like, the way it's held up on a pedestal is... There's something, the pacing of SA2 is what kills it, honestly, for me.
Sure.
The inconsistency and this constant swapping of gameplay styles between levels is just really drags it down for me. That's my thing with it. And Sonic Adventure 1, even though it is definitely buggier, it's a bit more of a mess in a lot of ways. It at least was fairly consistent in its gameplay, in that you chose a character and you could count on the gameplay being pretty much the same between levels for that character. It wasn't like it didn't just constantly change things up, which I get wanting to spice up with some variety throughout the game as you're playing it, but it just seemed like those hard cuts between different characters and levels was not the best way to go about it. Not my favorite way. So, fantastic soundtracks, though. Next up, from Ellie Plays Games, was there ever any design for Eggman's Mega Drive machine in the canceled Archie Mega Man Mega Drive miniseries?
Yeah, it actually got drawn. I got to see the inked pages.
Did I say Mega Man, by the way?
I heard Mega Drive.
Mega Drive. I said maybe it's a Mega Man Mega Drive something. I don't know. Anyway,
I was reading along, so maybe I read and didn't hear. But
I don't know if I did or not. You heard Mega Man Mega Drive? Okay. Oh, well. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, it got art, and that hurts even more. Because it looked good, because it's, Tyson Hess's art. But,
does it look like a Sega Genesis?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, a Mega Drive to be specific.
Well, okay, yes. But still,
yeah, it had elements of the Mega Drive in the chassis, but it also had a kind of Nightmare Fuel, Deep Sea Leviathan take on it.
Did it use blast processing?
You better believe it did.
And I have another one here. Did it look as cool as the egg carton?
Well, did you think the egg carton looked cool? In which case, better. And if not, better.
Well, hey, same answer for both, so whatever, it's fine. We'll probably never get to see it, will we?
No, probably not.
Next up, question from Artsy Mech SM. We have seen different iterations of Silver's future, thanks to the games, Archie, and IDW Comics. I'm curious, does Sega has ever given you some pointers or difficulties on how Silver's future need to be portrayed?
Actually, with the end of the Metal Virus saga, I purposefully scripted the bit in Silver's future to see what notes I would get. And they were very specific in that it was what they refer to as the blue skies future, where things are good and restored and lovely.
It's the good future, to use Sonic CD parlance.
Mm-hmm. The original draft of that scene had a more in-depth city scene to show what life was like at that time, but we were asked to scale it back just to not put too fine a detail on the era. So that's why it's a distant shot.
Yeah.
But that was the direction I received.
Interesting. And we have a question here from Almiron R. We know that you can't exactly bring the Freedom Fighters back without Sega's vote, but can you at least do some lawyer-friendly cameos of them?
No, not at all. There is no lawyer-friendly cameo. Conceivably, an artist could draw something that looks very much like that character, but I'm not particularly fond of that because people are so eager to see them back that there would be a fair number of folks who would point at this innocuous cameo and claim that it was validation or official and really make a mess of it.
Yeah, it's not easy to do that. So it's and
like
honestly, if you're going to come up with characters, you might as well make them new actual characters that you can use. And
right.
Yeah. Next up, we got Gizboy88. You mentioned Zavok is going to find his pack, and we saw in Bad Guys issue number 4 what he is going to. But is there going to be a new miniseries about it? Or maybe at least a small story in the annual 2021? Maybe the rest of the Deadly Six adapted to a new lifestyle.
You just kind of have to wait and see. That's going to be coming out later.
Dun dun dun. No spoilers. No spoilers. And finally, our last question is one of the most important, pertinent questions about Sonic of our time. And this one comes to us from Starline Odyssey. How is Sonic so blue and so fast simultaneously?
Well, this is a tricky one to address, especially since we've gone so deep into the episode. This could probably be an episode by itself.
It's true.
But you know what? Screw it. Screw the NDAs and all of that. I'm just going to tell you straight up the forbidden knowledge. The reason he's able to do both at the same time is
critical systems failure. Repeat, critical systems failure. This is all your fault.
That is the long and short of it.
Wow. That's amazing. My mind has been opened up in terms of Sonic. I mean, I never even thought of it that way before, but wow.
It really does change your perspective on things, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like, holy crap, this may make Sonic one of the most amazing and incredible media franchise ever created. Like, how did they do it? I thought Sega's made a lot of weird decisions over the years, so I'm very confused. I've been very confused by those, but hearing that, I now understand everything.
Yep.
Wow.
It is the answer to everything.
Holy crap. I can't believe it. You know what else I can't believe? That we're at the end of this episode of the BumbleKast.
We are. And we've reached that end because of the patronage of so many wonderful people, including Daniel H., Alex P., James K., John B., Jennifer R., Samuel P., Sam Cybercat, Robotnik Holmes, Mike B., Justin G., Torchbound, Koopling Crew, 128, Duizdiz Din, Diane W., Scruffy Matt, Chris A., Andrew D., John M., Don B., Yami M., Lee H.K., Lisa M., Chevelle, Sony, Silly String, Takaro, Salute Your Cat, David M., Invade Turbo Tunis, Justin S., Blue Title Gamer, Noni, Off, Overthinking Films, Tick Tick, Final Neil, Papa Tripadopoulos, Ian, Blue Mickey Mouse, Bradley T.T., Degama F. Wow, Jonathan D., PC the Unicorn, J. Frost, Rachel W., Godzilla, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Piggy Bank, Daniel B., Preston M., Dadler the Dalek, Jonathan L., Owen B.D., Jib, Dove, Somewhat Gooey, Sapphire, Scarletta, Professor Rye, and Turbo.
Every time I hear Duizdiz Din, I think of a car starting. Duizdiz Din. Duizdiz Din. That's what I think of. Anyway, thank you everybody for supporting the show, and we appreciate you all. We love you. Thank you. Where can people find you online, Ian?
Follow me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. You can find my personal website at BumbleKing.com. That has the Bumble Comic Shop, my release schedule, which understandably has gotten kind of quiet lately, but I need to update that webpage entirely, as well as links to my original series, Drogoon. That's DROGUNE.com. You can read for free all the things. Kyle, where can the people find you?
You can head over to my Twitter at KyleJCRB. And you can also find my stuff over at kngi.org. That's where you can find all the archived episodes of the BumbleKast in MP3 downloadable format for your listening pleasure. You can also find all the podcast links and everything over there, so you can get to the feed on your favorite podcast app. And you can also check out my other show, Nitro Game Injection. You can listen to that one streaming live on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That show's all about video game music and everything surrounding that, so be sure to check that show out as well.
You can follow our show on Twitter at BumbleKast, contact us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, our YouTube channel, and kngi.org.
Also, check out the Bumble store. You can find Bumble items there. Things with our logo on them, the BumbleKast logo. You can even get yourself a knowing smile thingy. Whatever it is, whatever kind of thingy you want, you can get it over there at shop.spreadshirt.com/BumbleStore.
And catch BumbleKast Gaming live streaming on Twitch Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's twitch.tv/BumbleKast Gaming. Follow us there and on Twitter to find out if we're going to be streaming on those dates. On any other dates, we might surprise you. You never know.
Ooh. Well, I think that's going to do it. You got any last words, Ian?
I do not. I barely have a conscious thought left in my head because we have answered a lot of Q's with a lot of A's.
Many A's are here for your
Indeed.
Q's. For your Q's.
And when you put them all together, they come out as ah!
It's true. That's true. I'll give you that.
Gonna wrap us up for today. This week's BumbleKast. Today's BumbleKast, this week's BumbleKast, but not this month's, because we'll see you next week. Until then, be good to each other, be good to yourselves. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Now, before you ask your question, please make sure to wake up, Flynn.
Could you tell me if Sonic and the Freedom Fighters that got their memories restored? Yes. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. Well, then fine. Just go then. See if I care.